Cloudera's current priorities for agencies and organizations is to help these organizations develop a more efficient and effective data analytics program. If you think about traditional environments, they might not be able to capture the right kind of information, might not be able to capture that information, might not be able to scale to capture the amount of information that you're looking for. It might not be able to bring the kind of analytics that you need to be able to accomplish that mission and move forward. And so we look at a data platform that we call the Enterprise Data Hub. It's based on an open source project called Apache Hadoop that brings the kind of scale, the kind of economics, and the kind of security and governance you're going to need to be able to do the kind of analytics that you need to be able to perform in order to accomplish the mission, accomplish your business objectives. And that's that foundation that's really critical, because once you have a foundation like that, you can actually start to institute a real fundamental change in the way that your organization approaches and uses data. Right? So it's a mind shift, it's a cultural change that the technology is able to bring forward and to foster. And so it's not just about looking, for instance, at what kind of questions can I ask of the data, right? But also what kind of information can that data actually bring to you as part of your decision making. And so you can think about for instance, in some situations, being able to look at information. If you're looking at information 5 minutes in the past, you might actually be 6 minutes late. Right? So given the kind of situation, being able to have the flexibility to actually approach and use information in different ways, moving from descriptive to include also predictive analytics in the way you operate. And that's really important for agencies as they move forward. And that's something that Cloudera has really been focused on, is how do we actually make something like Apache Hadoop enterprise ready for agencies and the like. And that includes, again, being able to process at scale, being able to process more efficiently and more effectively in a secured and compliant environment. So the challenges that Cloudera sees in its clients and its prospects and what we see in the public sector are really no different than what we see in the commercial space as well. I mean, first and foremost is how does one actually change the way that they're operating with data to really move the needle, to really become data-driven within their organization. But I think more concretely, one of the critical functions, one of the critical questions that we get is, how do I actually bring the degree of security and governance that I need in order to actually use information that's within an Enterprise Data Hub? If you think about it, the Enterprise Data Hub allows you to capture any kind of information, regardless of its structure and its form and its use. And one of the key elements of the Enterprise Data Hub is being able to have the kind of agility to be able to find the correlations between that information. But that's also critical that while you might be able to find the correlations, there might be some information in there that not everyone within your organization or the results of their need to be exposed. So how do you actually then impose the kind of security, the kind of governance, the kind of auditing, right? So you can trust and verify the people who actually can look at those correlations and find the intersections between those data sets that may be sensitive and not sensitive, but also then be able to operationalize that and push it out to a larger audience, and being able to have the right kind of gates, the right kind of control around that, so you have the confidence to be able to deliver that information to those audiences. So a good example of how an organization has taken the Enterprise Data Hub and been able to use that to fundamentally change the way that they operate, be able to move the needle for them and their business, is a national hospital that we've worked with in the United States. And their particular case is that they wanted to be able to figure out a way to be able to help their neonatal intensive care team. And being able to help reduce the stress of the infants that were in that facility. And so they're able to capture a lot of the sensor information that was being monitored of these children, right? So their heart rate and their temperature and the like. But also want to look at some of the external factors that might be contributing to the overall stress of these individuals, these infants. So they were able to also look at the ambient noise and the ambient light within the facility as well. So they're able to create a very good composite that was to be able to give them a much better picture of what's going on and what might be contributing to the overall stress of the infant. But the problem that they were facing was that it wasn't so much that they were able to capture this information and bring it together, but they weren't able to do it at the scale that they needed to actually create truly effective baselines. They're only able to capture about 3 days worth of information, and everything else they kind of actually had to throw away. So their window of opportunity was too small for them to really make a fundamental change. So they're able to move that over to a Hadoop environment, to a Cloudera enterprise data hub, and be able to look at the amount of information that was necessary to actually come up with true baselines and become a much better model. And they were able to feed that back into their nursing staff and the like, to be able to start changing overall policy and procedures within the neonatal intensive unit, and fundamentally change how those hospital workers were dealing with the stress of these infants. And so the good case of where effective data analytics program fundamentally changed the way that, that business, and in this case healthcare was being delivered. So some good lessons learned. Cloudera of how to actually start to foster and build an effective data-driven program. It really is, it comes down to very simple facts, which is you have to be agile and you have to start small. And what I mean by that is that the underlying technology of Hadoop, of the Enterprise Data Hub, Apache Hadoop, this open source project, collection of projects, allows you to examine information in a very agile and iterative process. You're able to actually formulate your questions and be able to get your answers and move on and make decisions as to whether or not that was the right question to ask or the right answer, and be able to pivot off of that very easily, much faster and a lot more capable than some of the more traditional systems. And so to really embrace that degree of not knowing the right answer, knowing that you're going to have the ability to go and continually ask questions in order to home in on that answer. And the starting small is really a very straightforward process, which is to say, do start small. Start with a single data set. It's all well and good, and it's something that should be on your roadmap to start looking at how can I blend information together, how can I actually go for that predictive analytics, bright shiny object. That is a great North Star, but we see the most success in which people start and they incubate the knowledge and skill sets around using data in this capacity. Right, of being able to find their way, to be able to examine the data and be able to look and be able to become agile in their use of analytics and data within a single data set. And you might have multiple single data sets within your organization, knowing in the next step you're going to be bringing those together. But to start with that before you move forward with bringing that data together, that's probably the most success we've seen within organizations is when they start small and they keep it focused and they keep it agile.